I'm Alan Robarge, a psychotherapist and a relationship coach. I often get asked how I work with clients and what is my approach. So I thought I would create a short video to share with you some of the ways that I approach individual sessions. My work focuses on three areas: improving relationships, understanding attachment trauma, and also encouraging a model for self-directed healing. When clients contact me, usually it has to do with feeling stuck and looping in some kind of repetitious limitation and an inability to gather resource, to create a plan, to figure out what is the next step. So oftentimes, the way that I link this to the lack of resource is to look at a history of where did the feeling state come from before, or how familiar is this feeling of being stuck. Usually, we're going to go deeper into defining what it actually means to be stuck. So I'd ask the question, what is your flavor of being stuck? How do you define that? I can make assumptions of what I think that means, but what does it feel like for you in your body, in your arms, your legs, your stomach, your spine, your feet, your fingers, your toes? And we could look at very specific physical sensations, and then also that translates into the emotional experience of what does it mean to be stuck. And as we dialogue that, and as we talk about the current situation that is being presented, we're going to stumble upon some core belief linked to the feeling. And it's very possible that a person in the process of talking about feeling stuck, they're going to say they're frustrated. And then I'm going to say, what's next? What do you notice when you connect with the frustration? And then they're going to say, well, I'm noticing that I feel helpless. And I'm going to say, good, what's next? What do you notice about that helplessness? And then it's very possible they're going to say, oh, a wave of sadness just came in. I feel so helpless in this place. And I'm going to listen, and very possible we're waiting for some kind of belief that's going to have a certain charge, a certain meaning, a certain an unquestioning belief, such as I can't make a choice here. I cannot handle this sadness. That would be a good one. So we start by the current situation. We then notice the feeling state. We start exploring really specifically what does that mean and defining the flavor. And we're going to just notice following a path of a series of beliefs and feelings and sensations in the body. And we're going to stumble upon one that's going to sound strong, or going to have a bit of an emotional charge or an electric charge. It's going to really resonate. And let's say, for example, in this moment, we got to the place of, I'm noticing this sadness and I cannot make a choice. I cannot do I am helpless with this sadness. So the moment I hear that in my role as listening, I'm going to say, well, is this the first time that you have felt or noticed this level and degree of sadness? And this helplessness linked to sadness, this inability to make a choice. And very often the client is going to say, no, this is familiar. I've experienced this before. And I'm going to say, what comes to mind? What is the first thought of that you remember related to this type of feeling? And some kind of memory is going to pop in, some kind of referencing the history. And then I might follow it up and say, was that the first time that you felt this feeling? Can you see if you can connect to what's the earliest time when you noticed this sensation, this feeling, this being helpless around your sadness? And oftentimes, usually this is, very, if it's not there, it's not there. But when it's there, it's pretty immediate, and the person immediately knows and will pick, something from the past. Now, here's what's really important about how I work, that we're not working on the past in the past. We're working on the past in the present. And we're having an immediate relationship with the feeling states and the sensations within the story or the context of the past, which makes it all present. So we're actually dealing with the present in the present. Did that make sense? I know it sounds confusing. But what this means is that there's no such thing as getting stuck or linked to the past. We maybe get stuck in the past if we keep looping and telling the same old story the same way, but that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is trying to have an immediate interaction, an immediate relationship with the experience as it's happening right now. And in the context of working with clients would be as it's happening right now between you and me. So when a person says, well, at age 12, I did have this feeling of being helpless around my sadness. It happened to be the time when my father died and I was in my bedroom by myself and there was no one home, and I was just noticing this incredible loneliness, this incredible haunting loneliness, and I felt helpless in my sadness. And then that's the moment that I would say, are you able in your current adult self to be able to connect with your 12-year-old self in that memory so that we can experiment here? We have the ability to use our imagination. We have ability to be in relationship with that 12-year-old self. We have the ability to be in relationship with that history, and when we're doing that, we make it present moment. It becomes active. It's not something lodged in the past. We're having an immediate, real-time, instant relationship with the part of ourself that experiences helplessness in sadness. And the client often will say, yes, I want to talk to that 12-year-old. And I'll say, well, let's watch it as if we're watching a movie. And I need you to narrate for me what is happening. And we are going to be in relationship with the 12-year-old. To have 1 foot in your current adult self and 1 foot in your 12-year-old self. And let's enter that memory or that image or that bedroom as you remember it. And please describe for me exactly what you see. And at this point, we want sensations, we want feelings, we want, the carpet is blue, the curtains are closed, it's around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the other people in the house are away at the store, and sitting there on the bed, noticing the bedspread. And your current adult self walks in and sits on the edge of the bed when this 12-year-old is feeling the helplessness of a profound grief of having lost his father. And I'll ask the client and say, what's the look on the face of the 12-year-old as you enter the scene? Now, sometimes I also follow this up by saying, hey, I'm just checking in with you. Are you resonating with how we're framing this? Because this is a little weird, it's a little like, let's talk to yourself and talk to your 12-year-old self. And I need to make sure that you're on board with, and also sometimes if people don't do this verbally out loud, they can feel a little self-conscious. And I usually present that as, well, let's imagine we're in an acting class and you're just experimenting. It's about being playful. And we know all children know how to play and can imagine themselves talking to, different parts of themselves or different characters. And that's all we're doing here, is we are trying to have a relationship and engage the part of ourselves that is experiencing some helplessness around deep sadness. And so do you think, in the weirdness of this, do you think you're able to engage with that 12-year-old self? Usually, most people, if they resonate with this approach, they enter the scene and I ask the question, what's the look on the face of this 12-year-old boy or this 12-year-old girl when you're sitting on the edge of the bed? And usually, the client has a response and says, he's cautious that I'm here. He doesn't share his feelings easily. And then I will say, mirror that back to him and affirm that reality. And the person in their adult self says, I know that it's weird that I'm here. I know that you feel cautious that I'm here. I know that you don't really want to share with me, but I'm going to sit on the edge anyway and give you some attention. And I want to hear about this helplessness that you're living with. I want to hear about the deep sadness of this grief that we all know in the history. The reality was that you didn't have anyone to talk to. So this is a corrective experience, a corrective moment, that if you can get behind actually talking to the part of you that is hurting, you're coding your brain as having had a real-time experience of an interaction by holding and containing and offering gentleness and compassion and presence and acceptance. You're accepting the difficult feeling of, at the time, for a 12-year-old and life circumstance and not having any resource, the 12-year-old was overwhelmed and unable to manage the intensity of that feeling. And what you and I do, the work that I do, is to offer some guidance in the dialogue. This is about taking that old feeling, sometimes even taking the memory, looking at the relationship that we have with these parts of ourselves that we consider all linked to feeling states. The part of me that's lonely, the part of me that's embarrassed, the part of me that has shame. And we're directly entering into an active dialogue. And when we do this, we're reworking the feeling state and we're reworking the memory. We are re-experiencing it in the present moment. And as a result, we get to reimagine the outcome. So this dialogue could then go on for 40 minutes, a very active, rich, present moment conversation with the 12-year-old, with the sadness, with the helplessness, and talking about, what do you need? I would guide the client to say, ask your 12-year-old what he needs. Ask him how you can help. And then in your adult self, you very directly say, I'm here to give you some support. What do you need? Now, sometimes in those moments, the client will say, I don't know. I don't, nothing. The 12-year-old didn't say anything. And there's ways that we can come back to saying, well, let's get grounded in the body. Let's reactivate the memory by looking at the room. The 2 o'clock in the afternoon, no one's home. You're feeling lonely. You're feeling the helplessness. You're sitting on the edge of the bed. And usually when we stay linked to the feeling sensation in your body, your arms, your legs, your stomach, your spine, your breath, your feet, your fingers, your toes, and again, breathe through it. And when we continue to track all of these elements of the body and the breathing and the core belief and the feeling state, and we participate in the narrative playfully, that's what we're doing. We're creating a playful narrative around a difficult situation, and we're actually reworking what happened. And as a result, you're going to notice some resource comes in, because you're actually not 12 years old in that moment. You're your current adult self. And we're integrating these different disconnected parts of your psyche or disconnected parts of your feeling states, and we're integrating them. And the moment of integration, that is the experience and the feeling of resource. And we're going to know resource because it's going to come out in the dialogue. The 12-year-old is going to tell you what he or she needs. needs. You're going to be able to tell the 12-year-old what you can offer. And the whole thing is about affirming the experience of the 12-year-old, affirming the feeling state, affirming the loneliness, affirming, like, yes, this is so painful. It is very painful when your father dies. It is very painful to be alone in the house by yourself and no one to talk to. And when you offer this kind of very direct gentleness, kindness, and affirmation, you're affirming yourself in the present moment, which means you're strengthening your relationship to yourself. Because again, you're not 12 years old. We're just two people, having a conversation in real time. But what you're doing is you're practicing offering yourself comfort in the present moment through the imagined narrative of the part of you that's 12 years old, or the feeling state that is linking to some younger feelings. Now, lastly, here's what happens. We're not just doing this then to only rework these memories. If you recall, how we got here is usually there's a precipitating event or a very current situation. So someone will call and first say, I'm feeling really stuck in my life. I'm feeling stuck in this relationship. My girlfriend did this, she did that, she did this. Or my boyfriend did this, he did this and this. And this is just an impossible situation. And talking about the current real life scenario. And we're going to uncover that feeling of a deep sadness and feeling helpless around not being able to make a choice and imploding into grief. And we got there from really looking at the flavor and discerning what does it exactly mean to be stuck. So then we go into linking it, what is your history and your relationship to the same feeling? And most probably it's something that is unresolved or needs some reworking, needs some reimagining, re-experiencing, and as a result you integrate it and discover some resource related to the history of around when you were 12 and whatever that memory was. But here's the thing, we create a bridge, and the brain naturally seems to do this for us. When we activate the resource, and by resource I mean insight, I mean feeling calm, just feeling, like there's possibility, feeling at ease, no longer feeling helpless and saying, what, I actually do have choices. And even in that moment, people will start to feel that they have choices. And when we return and come back to the original current real-time life scenario that's unfolding, that is the reason why the person is seeking out relationship coaching, is that we can take that same resource that was uncovered and apply it to the current situation. And that's the part that we usually don't have to work very hard. The brain, the person will just automatically see, hey, I do have some choice here, or I realize now that when I give myself this comfort and affirmation that I've been wanting, I no longer feel as alienated, isolated, or disconnected from my current situation. And in fact, I can see it from a different perspective. I'm not bogged down in the same helplessness as I once was. I hope that this was helpful. This really is a reoccurring conversation that I have with clients all the time, different scenarios. It just sort of unfolds organically, and it's all about reclaiming the disconnected, franchised, estranged parts of ourselves around difficult feeling states, how they're linked to the past, how they're linked to memories, how they're linked to difficult scenarios that seem to keep replaying out in our present current life and in our current relationships. So by going and creating that bridge of reworking what happened in the past, creating some options, discovering resource, we apply that in the same way to the current situation, where we get a chance to experiment with new resource and to discover options to get out of being stuck. I hope that this was helpful. Feel free. Also, you can use this kind of technique and approach on your own. This is also very helpful in the context of a model for self-directed healing. And then lastly, I do have a series of videos of this same approach, which I refer to as self-reparenting and doing some inner child work, specifically from the point of view of self-directed healing, of how you can begin to work this way with yourself. So please, you can find those videos on my YouTube channel as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.